What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Under Center with Abelson, presented by the Real Spiel Podcast. Week 6 is in the books. What an incredible weekend of college football we had. I know I say this a lot, but you can never, ever, ever say that there is a bad weekend of college football. I don't care if there's not all these top 10 ranked matchups. College football never disappoints. That's why it's the greatest sport, because you never know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. Obviously, last week, week 5, we had all these big-time matchups: Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, Alabama. Coming into this week, everybody was like, "Oh, this slate is not looking as good as last week." But like I said, it never disappoints. This is not going to be too long of a recap. Just wanted to get in here and touch on some of these games. Your boy caught a cold, so I might sound a little nasally, so bear with me. But yeah, just wanted to recap some of these games, go over some of the weekend action, give you guys my new updated top 25, because there are some big changes. There's some big changes. So with that all being said, like, comment, subscribe. The Week 6 preview was the most watched video we've put out so far, so I appreciate all the new listeners, maybe some people who are tuning in again. I appreciate all of it, man. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and let's get into it. Thank you. I think we obviously have to start with the upsets of all upsets. This has been easily the wildest upset we've had all year. Penn State goes down, excuse me, to UCLA on the road. UCLA's first win of the season. Better yet, this is the first time they've led all season. That was just an embarrassing performance from Penn State. Obviously, coming off the loss to Oregon, you were thinking, where was this team's head at? Were they going to use that loss as motivation because they know the season's still in front of them? It looks like they used the loss the opposite way, man. It looked like that loss may have defeated them, may have taken their soul, because that team came out flat. They came out not aggressive, and they thought this was going to be, in 12 o'clock local kickoff in California. We're playing an 0-14. We can just roll out and, do what we usually do and go home with a win. But I don't even, I'm at a loss for words, dude. As some may know, Penn State was my national championship winner. I had them in the preseason. They had the making and the recipe of teams in the past that we've seen with Michigan and Ohio State, how they just kind of bring back all their talent, run it back one more time, and usually have a special run like we saw again with Ohio State and Michigan. I thought it would be the same way with Penn State. Obviously, they brought back so much talent. Their starting quarterback, the two explosive backs, Sutton Smith, whatever his name is. They went to the portal. They finally got a receiver in Pena, and it just didn't seem to matter. It just hasn't seemed to matter. I'm officially off the Penn State train. We are not. We've jumped off the boat. That ship has sailed. Whatever other phrases you want to use for it, because it's only uphill from here, man. They can't lose another game for the rest of the season, and they still play Ohio State. They still play Indiana. They still play Iowa. It's not looking good, man. It is not looking good. Shout out to UCLA, though. This is a team who has obviously been the butt of all jokes this offseason and the start of the season, with Nico leaving Tennessee to go over to UCLA. And like I said, they've been absolutely dreadful all year. They have easily been the worst Power 5 team, Power 4 team, maybe all of FBS teams, including Group of 5. Like, there was a conversation between Kent State and UCLA, who's the worst team. And having a 5-star quarterback and being that bad is a little insane. It's a little crazy. They obviously fired their coach, and that's what makes this loss even more just mind-blowing, is that UCLA didn't have a head coach. They didn't have an offensive coordinator. They didn't have a defensive coordinator. they promoted their the interim offensive coordinator to like head coach, like a guy in his like late 20s, or at least looks like he's in his late 20s or 30s, early 30s. And they went out there and immediately jumped to a 27-7 lead right off the bat. Penn State couldn't over the last 3 years. Penn State and running the ball, like you can't you those words are synonymous. If you're talking about Penn State, you're talking about the ability to run the ball, and they literally could not run the ball against UCLA. What they end up with? They ended up with 157 yards, but 78 of those yards were from Drew Aller. Drew Aller, the quarterback that everybody says can't run, he's a statue. He ended up with 78 rushing yards. That pretty much explains the whole entire thing. Um, yeah, but Nico, shout out to Nico, man. That's who I think a lot of people thought they were going to get from UCLA. Even if he wasn't going to be a star at UCLA, people thought he was still going to be a competent quarterback. Um, but so I'm glad, like I said, he's been getting all the jokes, he's been getting all the hate. Much of it kind of well deserved with the way he kind of handled that whole situation at Tennessee. But I was honestly starting to feel a little bad for the kid because it was really, really bad. Like, so bad. Like, the worst case scenario of what could have probably happened. And I still don't like to see guys in that situation. He's a young guy. He has a lot of talent. So I'm glad to see him get the W. Glad to see him get the W. But, yeah, Penn State, where you go from here, I don't know. I was one of those guys who wasn't calling for James Franklin's job. I thought having a guy who can't win the top 5 games but wins and dominates all of the other games in this day and age, and with kind of the coaches that are here right now, like, you really can't get much better. So, like, I wasn't really calling, especially after the Oregon loss. I wasn't really calling for his job, and I'm still not. But it would. There's a question of if you start to look, because it's one of those things where, like, I don't think you would have fired James Franklin without really any reason if he had another 10-2 year. You lost in the first or second round of the playoffs. I don't think Penn State would have been looking for a reason to fire him. But, like, a loss like this kind of gives you that, kind of gives you a reason, man. Kind of gives you some justification if you do end up going that way, if the season just kind of goes off the rails. But nonetheless, I really don't think they will. His buyout is what, 55, 56, maybe almost $60 million. And for a team who is nationally relevant, they finish top 10, 15 in recruiting every year. They finish over the last 3-4 years. The only losses they've had to were against Ohio State and Michigan, and obviously now Oregon. It's just like I think Penn State is in too good of a position with him, because the grass ain't always greener. The grass is not always greener. But yeah, I don't. Again, this loss was absolutely embarrassing. Shouldn't have happened in a million years. If they played this game 10 times over, they shouldn't lose. There shouldn't be a scenario where they lose a single one. I think Penn State's title hopes are dead, because the team that I've seen this year is not a team that I think is going to go out and beat Ohio State or Indiana. I just don't see any possible way of it happening. They haven't beaten a single Power 4 team yet. Even against the group of 5, even against the soft-ass non-conference schedule they had, they were still struggling. The offense is atrocious, so I just have no confidence that they can actually go out and beat Ohio State, who has the best defense that I have seen all year, and Indiana, whose offense is just shredding people, whose defense is playing well. That's going to be tough, because they have to win out now. They have to win out, and I haven't seen anything to kind of prove to me why they should win out. One last thing we'll touch on, and we'll go to the next thing. It's just Clemson and Penn State. Like, to me, like, they have been the most interesting story in college football. Maybe obviously for the wrong reason, but, like, what is going on with those programs? I just don't know. I'm not really a guy who talks about, returning production as like a major factor of why a team will have success, because we've seen time and time again where that's not really the case. But on the flip side, I will say when that returning production is borderline elite production, if not elite production, that's where like I start to scratch my head and not really understand why these two teams specifically aren't having success. Because it's not like I'll use Virginia Tech as an example. Over the last couple of years, everybody going to last year, they had the highest returning production in the country. But that returning production wasn't good. They won the previous year, 6 games in the ACC? So that's not good returning production. So that stat doesn't matter to me when the production is average and not good. Albeit Clemson had a down year last year, they still won the ACC. They went 9-3. They battled in the playoffs. Penn State, they made it, I think, maybe to the quarter semifinals, the last 4, or at least the last 6, obviously. They battled against Notre Dame. They beat 2 whatever teams, but they still went 10-2, and they had a great season. They made it to the Big Ten championship game. They competed against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, and especially for Penn State, like a lot of these guys are veterans. These are veteran guys. Drew Aller is a senior. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, I think they came back for their senior years. Like, these are veteran guys. They brought back their whole offensive linemen who's a veteran group. And for them to be struggling this bad, it just does not make any sense, man. It does not make any sense. But yep, that's enough of that. Shout out to UCLA, big time win. Penn State, y'all need to get it together. Next up, we got Vandy versus Bama, the college game day game, the rematch of last year's beatdown that Vandy put on Alabama. You had a feeling that Alabama was going to come out hungry, going to come out ready for this game. It didn't really look that way in the first half. This was one of those games where early on, I thought this could have turned out to be kind of the same game as it was last year. Alabama gets the ball first. Vandy stops them, forces the 3 and out. And Vandy gets the ball. And on their first possession, they, grinded out a couple of plays, and then they break loose for a 70-yard run to the house, 7-0. And if you're an Alabama fan, you had to have been thinking, uh-oh, not again. Uh-oh, 7-0, not again. Then Vandy goes out, Alabama goes out for another possession, and I think Vandy forces the interception. I don't remember if the interception from Ty Simpson was on the first or the second series. I think it was on the second series in that goal line. And then, again, if you're an Alabama fan, you got to be thinking, oh, no, we haven't turned the ball over a single time this year. And, of course, now when we play Vanderbilt, we're going to turn the ball over. And then Vandy marches all the way down again. I'm not going to lie. In those first few series, I was a little concerned. I was a little concerned for Alabama because Vandy, they were getting what they wanted offensively. Their defense was playing extremely well. And again, they marched down the field that second possession, and I think this is kind of where the game really turned. You cannot do this if you're Vanderbilt, man. You are on the road with the chance to go up 14-0 on the road. You cannot Diego Pavia fumble on the goal line. Basically the goal line. It was 3rd and 10. He was running in. He got to the 5-yard line, and he gets tackled, and the ball gets fumbled. At worst, that's supposed to be a 10-0 lead for Vandy if they get a field goal, and at best, that's supposed to be a 14-0 lead on the road. It's plays like that are literally the difference in the games. And from there, Alabama gets the ball. They go down. They score. I will say Vandy did, bounce back from that, and they eventually scored again, I think, in that second quarter to take a 14-7 lead. But from that point forward, Alabama's defense just completely stepped up and dominated. They tied it 14-14 before the half. Ty Simpson with a great pass to the edge to Bernard. Tied it 14-14 going to half, and in the second half, the whole script flipped. Alabama's defense was on fire. They came out on fire. Alabama's offense didn't really even have to do too much. They scored. I know they scored late in the fourth, but I mean they only scored a touchdown and I think a field goal and a touchdown in that or a field goal and maybe two field goals and a touchdown maybe. They didn't really have to do too much. Ty Simpson was making the plays he needed to make. But yeah, Vanderbilt, that's a tough pill to swallow because even the game wasn't over. The game was not over. I think it was 17-14 or 21-14 or 20-14. I think it was 20-14 late in the fourth quarter. And what happens? I think Vandy gets near the goal line again, and he throws a pick. Diego Pavia throws a pick. Yeah, he didn't play his best game. And then you can't do that when you talk trash to Alabama in the preseason. If you don't back it up, there's going to be consequences, man. And you can't have two turnovers, two big-time turnovers, two game-changing turnovers. And that really was the difference because, again, they didn't score in the second half. But Alabama, I mean, they were keeping the door open for them to try and do something potentially. But obviously it was 24-13, and then late in the fourth with like 40 seconds left, Alabama punches one in, 30-14. Brutal beat for the bettors. Brutal beat. I had Vandy plus 10.5. I thought that was going to hit, and it should have hit. But obviously that was a brutal beat. It's kind of funny when you think about it because this game was kind of the exact game from last year almost in a sense. Just obviously the opposite team. Alabama kind of stole a page from Vandy's book. They ran the ball extremely well. This is the first time all year I think any of the running backs had. No, this is the first time since 2023 that an Alabama running back, so essentially since Kalen DeBoer's been there, that an Alabama running back has run for over 100 yards. Jam Miller obviously running for over 100. And that was kind of the biggest question with Bama coming into this game is their ability to run the ball because they really haven't been able to run the ball effectively all year. That's what killed them against Florida State. It didn't hurt them too bad against Georgia, but that could have been a spot this game where if they couldn't run the ball and kind of control the clock and control the time of possession, that could have hurt them. And again, that's kind of the page where they stole from Vandy's book. Last year, Vandy obviously beat Bama by controlling the possessions, controlling the time of clock. I'm pretty sure Alabama only had like 16 minutes of game possession in the game. And it was kind of flipped this year. I think with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Alabama was controlling the time of possession 34 minutes to Vandy's 19 minutes. And obviously when you turn the ball over 2 times, that's not going to help. You're taking 2 possessions away from you guys. And I'm pretty sure Vandy only had excuse me. Vandy only had 40 snaps, I think like late in the middle of the fourth quarter compared to like Alabama's like 68 snaps that they had. And again, when you turn the ball over and you're not putting it in the end zone, that's going to happen. Vandy, they're still a good team, man. They are still an extremely talented team, much better than last year. Their defensive line is solid. Their defense played pretty well this game. They played pretty well. I know Bama scored 30 points, but they really only scored 23 points, and they were sacking Ty Simpson a couple times, getting some tackle for losses. But Alabama, they got the job done at home, got the revenge. And Alabama, man, they are looking like a scary team. Sorry, my nose is itching. They are looking like a scary team, man. They got a big game against Mizzou next week, this week that we'll touch on in our preview. I think, them, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M, I think those are clearly the top 3 teams in the SEC right now. If I had to pick out of all of them, I think I would take Alabama. I think Alabama is playing the best right now. Ty Simpson, he's in that other mode, playing extremely well. So yeah, shout out to Alabama for a big time win. Next up, we'll talk about Texas and Florida. Texas traveled to the Swamp to take on Florida for the first time ever, actually. This is one that we were wrong about. We liked Texas minus 6.5. Going into this game, I really just didn't trust DJ Lagway. I didn't trust Arch Manning as much, but I trusted him more than DJ Lagway because we've actually seen Arch Manning be good this year, whether it was against Sam Houston or whatever. He showed that he had talent. He showed it. That wasn't the same for DJ Lagway. There wasn't a single game this year where you looked and saw DJ Lagway and said, okay, he played good. He played good. He pretty much played terrible in all his games. So that's why I was on Texas' side. Also, I thought the defense would have controlled this game, and if Texas won, I thought it was going to be because of their defense, not because of Arch Manning, but because of their defense. But boy, was I wrong on this one. Florida shut me up. They proved that they really didn't prove. I guess they didn't really prove that much, but they proved that they're better than Texas. DJ Lagway finally showed up, finally had that game that we saw from him all last year down the stretch. That Florida offense was explosive. They were making deep plays, and they were just running all over that Texas defense. In the first quarter alone, I'm pretty sure the running back for for Florida had at least, 60, 65, maybe almost 70 yards in the first quarter. Texas's defense let him down big time, man. Especially when you have a quarterback who's just not seeing the field well. His mechanics aren't just there. Your defense has to, especially on the road, your defense has to step up. And they really just didn't do a good job of stepping up. I think the biggest story and the biggest question, the biggest story from, I think, this game was Texas's offensive line. I know you can point the fingers at Arch Manning, but he already, when he's not playing really with a lot of confidence and his mechanics are off, you need that offensive line to give you some time. Granted, he did have some plays today, or some plays on Saturday, where he did have some time and he still was, not really accurate. But boy, Florida State's defense, and their defense is good. They have a good defense. Their defense has been their really only saving grace all year. Florida's defense came to play. They were getting absolutely after Arch. It seemed like almost every time Arch dropped back, he was either getting pressured or sacked. I mean, he did get sacked 6 times, and the amount of times he was having to throw with pressure in his face. There was that one wide open touchdown he overthrew, but when you go look at the replay, when he let go of the ball, he was falling back. Somebody was in his face, and that was just a story of the game. Texas, I don't know what's going on with their backs. I thought their defense and their backs coming into this year were going to be their strong points. Obviously, C.J. Baxter missed last year. He came back. Trey Wisner came back again this year. So I really thought that their running backs were going to be playing a lot better, but they really couldn't run the ball. This was another situation. I'm pretty sure Arch Manning led all of Texas in rushing yards. When your quarterback's leading your team in rushing yards, that's usually a recipe for disaster. And that was the case. So yeah, when your quarterback isn't really playing well and he doesn't have time to throw, there's not a lot you can do. Man, it just seems like, sorry, man, my nose is just on fire right now, itching. But man, where was I at? Billy Napier, man, it seems like every time his seat is as hot as it can possibly be, he just gets a fire extinguisher and puts it out a little bit. They win another big game on the ropes. And one of those games last year where they kind of had to win for the sake of Billy Napier. They find a way to win this one. Just dominating Texas. They end up winning 29-13. And if you're a Texas fan, just like Penn State, you guys are in trouble because now you guys are facing a situation where I don't think being 9-3 this year is going to get you in. There are going to be so many teams with 1 to 2 losses. So many. I don't think we'll see a single undefeated team this year. Maybe one. But there are going to be so many teams with 1 to 2 losses that I think if you're 9-3, you're going to be on the outside looking in. So Texas is now in a situation where every single win for the rest of the year is a must win. They still play Oklahoma without John Mateer, but Oklahoma. They still play Georgia. They still play Texas A&M. So that schedule, if you're a Texas fan, you have to be worried, especially with the way DJ or Arch Manning has been playing. There's really not a lot of confidence on that offensive side to have if you're a Texas fan. The offensive line can't do anything. They can't run the ball. Arch Manning isn't playing well, and he had some good throws. He had some good plays. That one, his second touchdown pass, that was probably the best throw I've seen him do all year. The pressure was coming to him. He kind of evaded it, stepped up into the pocket, and let off like a 40-yard pass down the middle to I think that was to Wingo. But yeah, that might have been his best throw I've seen all year. So he made some good plays, but the offensive line just was not holding up and not giving him really an opportunity to do that. So yeah, if you are Texas, it is time to maybe start panicking because it is starting to look grim for you guys. Next up, we'll talk about Florida State versus Miami. Florida State or Miami, they are the state champs. It's all about the U. It's all about the U. Now, I'm not a Miami fan. I just wanted to wear the shirt for the pod. I did have Miami. We were right about Miami. I liked Miami -4.5. I thought coming into this game, they're just the best team in the country. I think Ohio State's been playing extremely, extremely well. But I think all around running game, defense, quarterback play, to go along with resume and actually being challenged more than maybe once. That's why I think Miami is the best team in the country. And I know the final score of this game was a lot closer than it made the game look. But this game was not really that close. Miami forced 2 turnovers early in the game. Jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Carson Beck was just throwing the ball over the field. He ended up throwing for 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. Efficient, 21 for 28, 20 for 27. Miami's defensive line was just getting after Florida State, and that was one of the biggest questions coming into this game. Was going to be Miami's defensive line versus the running game of Florida State. I think Miami has the best defensive line in the country, and Florida State was coming in with the second best rushing attack in all of college football. Miami did a good job minimizing the big runs, the explosive runs, and obviously you're up 28-3 going into the fourth quarter. Naturally, you're just going to let off the gas a little bit, and I think Miami just got conservative. But at no point did I think that they thought that the lead was a threat at all. I'm struggling right now, man. I'm so sorry. I'm struggling. My nose is just itching. But yeah, at no point did it feel like Miami thought their lead was ever going to be threatened. Give the credit to Florida State. They had a great effort to come back and, to make it competitive. But yeah, you could just tell that Miami took their foot off the gas completely. And when you're up that big that late and you see the team start to come back, it could be kind of hard to maybe kind of rev things back up and put your foot back on their throats. But nonetheless, you knew Miami, they just wanted to get in and get a win, and that they did, and they did dominate. They do have some stuff to clean up. Miami, I think they had 13 turnovers or 13 penalties that game. You definitely don't want that to become a problem. But Mario Cristobal, he's not satisfied. He is not thinking ahead. This guy is only thinking about the week they're in. He doesn't want these guys to listen to get fed the rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. And I think, because I haven't really always been the biggest Mario Cristobal fan, because it just feels like a couple times a year he's costing his team's wins. But I think he has his team in a good position right now. I really do. So shout out to Miami getting the big time win, moving to 5-0. And yeah, as we'll see here in a second, they are my number one team in the country. Let's quickly go over some of the other big games that happened across the country. Not even big games, but just some of the other games that happened across the country. BYU, man, they are looking real and they are looking extremely well. They got a good win against West Virginia. Georgia took down Kentucky. Shout out to Cincinnati knocking out Iowa State. Cincinnati could very well be ranked, man. They have been playing extremely well, and I am not a Scott Satterfield guy. I'm a Louisville fan, and we do not like him over here. But he has that team playing well. Only losses to Nebraska. Michigan was in a slugfest with Wisconsin. That's not one that I had on my radar, but they eventually got the win. My Louisville Cardinals sold to Virginia. In my preview, I talked about how -6.5 was a little too much, honestly. I thought, and I looked at the spread, and I was very surprised it was that high. Virginia, they were a tough team. Miller Moss turned the ball over way too much, had that terrible, terrible pick six. Isaac Brown muffling that toss on 4th and 1, scoop and score. Our defense played extremely well, and that's not something I was saying a lot last year, and I didn't think our offense would be the problem. But our defense played well enough to win. We only gave up 2 offensive touchdowns, but we couldn't pull it off in overtime. So shout out to Virginia. Texas Tech gets a big-time win. Ohio State just absolutely dominating against Minnesota. So yeah, that's some of the other action from the weekend. Now I do want to get into my top 25 teams. This is my Week 7 top 25. At number 1, like I said earlier, we got Miami. I think, like I said, they have up with Ohio State. Ohio State and Miami have been playing the best football in the country. The reason I have Miami ahead is just because of the resume. I think they have a more impressive resume. They've beaten Notre Dame, Florida State, USF. They've beaten currently 3 ranked teams, right? Yeah, and then they've beaten Florida. But Ohio State I do have at 2. Oregon I have at 3. Ole Miss I have at 4. Oklahoma I have at 5. Texas A&M I have at 6. Indiana I have at 7. Texas Tech at 8. Alabama at 9. Georgia at 10. I have Mizzou at 11. Missouri, LSU at 12. Tennessee at 13. I got Georgia Tech at 14. Vanderbilt at 15. Virginia at 16. Michigan at 17. BYU at 18. Arizona State at 19. Notre Dame at 20. I got Notre Dame, or we'll finish the rest and then talk about some of my rankings. I got Iowa State at 21. Memphis at 22. Utah at 23. USF at 24. And Florida State at 25. Again, I talked about why I have Miami at number 1. I still have Florida State ranked at 25. I still think they have a top 3 win in the country, taking down Alabama. And their 2 losses have come to currently ranked teams, Virginia and Miami. So I'm not going to move them out of the top 25 because they do have that Alabama win, and their 2 losses have come to ranked teams. Notre Dame, I have Notre Dame at 20. Kind of just like with Miami or Florida State. They are 2-2, but their 2 wins, who have they beaten? I know they've lost to 2, top 5, 6 teams in the country, but who have they beaten? They've beaten a Purdue team who's probably going to finish the last couple spots in the Big Ten, and a Boise State team who seems to not be having as good of a year as last year. So I'm going to need to see them win a couple more games before I can try to really put them much higher. I have Mizzou at 11. I still think they're slightly underrated in the AP poll. I still have Vandy at 15. They lost to a great Alabama team. I'm not going to dock them a lot of points from losing. I think they dropped down to like 20 in the AP poll. Let's see what else. I have Virginia at 16, slightly higher than the AP. They have 2 really good wins, Florida State and Louisville. Let's see what other notable things there is. I I mean, there's not really a lot of. I feel like this is pretty solid. There's not really a lot of big questions or big changes. Um, yeah, I have Texas Tech over Alabama because Texas Tech has basically dominated their schedule and they are undefeated, and are clearly a top 10 team in the country. But yeah, that's my AP top 20. That's my top 25. Let me know if you guys disagree with anything. Let me know who you guys would add, who you guys would take away, and who I'm missing. Lastly, before we got out of here, I did just want to go over my picks for the week, or for week 6 that we just had. Not too bad of a week. We ended up going 3 for 3. We were right about Miami minus 4.5. We were right about Virginia plus 6.5. I hate to admit it as a Louisville fan, but I thought that spread was going to be a little too big. And we were right about Clemson minus 14.5. North Carolina, they're not a good team. I know Clemson hasn't been playing well this year, but North Carolina is just really, really bad. And Clemson still has a lot of talent on that roster. Whether it hasn't been clicking or not is a different conversation, but they're still a good team. When you're playing that bad of a team, they could have put up 100 on them. Not really, but they could have put up a lot of numbers on them. We were wrong about Texas. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. We were wrong about Vandy. That's just so annoying because that game should have covered. Alabama's running the clock out, less than a minute. It's 4th down. I think if they would have kicked a field goal, they were down 9. I think this game ended up tipping off at like 11 or 12.5, but they were down 9, I think, and so that probably would have covered either way. And then Mississippi State, we were wrong about this one. I thought 14.5 was just too big of a number, and it was looking that way at first. Mississippi State was playing extremely, extremely tough with Texas A&M. I'm pretty sure it was like a 10-3 or a 13-3 game headed into the fourth quarter. But Texas A&M's offense just came alive, and it was just too much for Mississippi State. So we were wrong about that. I will take a 500 weekend every day of the year. 3-3, not the worst, not the best. What does that bring us to for the year? So we are currently sitting at 16-20 on our picks against the spread. Not terrible, but not great. Week 1 we went 2 for 3. Week 2 we went 4-2. We went 1-4 in week 3, 4-2 in week 4, 2-6 in week 5, and 3-3 in week 6. Still got a lot of season left to get this record above 500. Yeah, not bad, but not great. But that is enough yapping. I am going to get out of here. Take something to fix this congestion. My nose has been itching this whole entire episode, as you guys can clearly see. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you sticking it out through all this nasal congestion and sniffling. I appreciate you guys for listening. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Like as always, we are here a couple times a week giving you guys college football content. Next video will probably be the week 7 previews. We got a big weekend coming up. Mizzou, Alabama. We have Red River, Oklahoma, and Texas. What else do we have? We have Ohio State, Illinois. We got Indiana and Oregon. Oh my gosh, we got Florida. And Texas A&M, Georgia, Auburn, Michigan, USC, South Carolina, LSU. So we got a big weekend coming up. So we're going to have a jam-packed preview show. So stay tuned to that. That should drop on Thursday. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you.